He is Dave Neville. You can follow him on Twitter at DNevsCG. I think DNevs is sort of like his nickname. He is all over Callaway
I've been
Golf.
called worse.
You've been called worse. Well, hopefully not on this podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Fox Sports Radio, and it's going to be very fascinating because what I want to do with Dave is he's so involved in several different entities media-wise with Callaway Golf. His main role, senior director, brand and product management. But he does so much talking about club configuration. He doesn't do a whole lot of talking about the configuration of his life and his own career. So I feel like let's have
People
some
don't
fun
want to hear
here.
about that, Brian. I like
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's a fascinating story, and I want to get into that. First of all, let's start here, Dave. Your road to Callaway Golf. Obviously, you've been so much invested in the game of golf since you were young, but what led you to Callaway?
Yeah, it's one of those kind of winding stories. And whenever I'm doing kind of career mentorship, which I love to do, people always ask, "How did you get to where you are?" And everybody has a unique story. But I grew up in the Philadelphia area as a caddy, and I caddied for a number of years. I had a partial caddy scholarship at the University of Notre Dame, the J. Wood Platt Caddy Scholarship, which I'm always be very, very grateful for. But that was really how I learned the game. You know, playing on Mondays when the course was closed, and watching golfers at this club, and kind of learning about the game. And I fell in love with it. You know, my dad was like a baseball player, tennis guy, was not really a golfer. My brother wasn't a golfer, and I just fell in love with the game. I was in the military for a while, so I did ROTC at the University of Notre Dame. Was a captain in the Air Force, and was really proud to serve our country for that time. And then after that, went back to business school. And post business school, I was doing consulting. I was working all around the world. I worked in the Middle East, in the United Arab Emirates, in Abu Dhabi. For a while, I worked on yogurt pricing. I worked on getting telephone electric poles down quicker, all kinds of random stuff. But, you know, golf kept drawing me back in. And I kept saying to myself, I want to work in a job that I'm passionate about every day. You know, people talk about that all the time, but it's such a big deal. If you can work in a job that you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like a job. It makes it's something that you become excited about. So I started looking around. This is about 2008, and when the last downturn that we had in the economy, and nobody in golf was hiring. I mean, it was a bloodbath. It was really, really tough. And I worked through a lot of different connections and got an opportunity to start with Titleist in San Diego. So I was living in Chicago at the time, and I left everything. You know, I sold my place. I quit the job where I was about to be a partner at this consulting firm. I left the girlfriend. I had only been to San Diego one time, and that was for the interview with Titleist, and moved out to San Diego. And that was 10 years ago, and started with Titleist. And after about 4 years of doing that, I had an opportunity at Callaway. Callaway was really getting their company turned around. Callaway had been struggling for a number of years, and they had a new CEO, Chip Brewer, who's still our CEO, and has done an amazing job of turning the company around. And he gave me an opportunity to come on board with Callaway. So I've been doing that for almost 7 years now. And it's been amazing. But there was a lot of, you know, different things that happened along the way, fortuitous things. I mean, I was playing golf with a guy, and I was trying to get in with this company, this small wedge company, Scratch Golf. And I was playing golf with this guy, and he happened to have Scratch Golf wedges in his bag. I mean, it was just completely random. And I asked him about it. He was a super nice guy. He's become a great friend of mine. He's like, "Yeah, I know people who work there." And I had been trying to get in touch with this company to get an opportunity to work with them. And I was like, "That is amazing. Can you connect me?" And he did. He connected me, and I told him about my background and consulting experience, and I offered them to do some free consulting, and they said, "Hell yeah, you can do some free consulting for us." And that's really how I kind of got my start in the golf industry. And that was 12 years ago. So it's been quite a run, but I'm passionate about it. I love working for Callaway, and I love working in the golf industry. It's a game that makes people happy. They're passionate about it. They get excited about it, and they get excited about new equipment. And that's where Callaway comes in.
And it seems to be a game that's been on the rise in 2020. One of the things that we've seen is more people are taking the game. And Some of the themes that I take from just listening to you is that you have this unrelenting drive, you have a persistence, and you just find a way to make things happen. And you took a big risk. You left your girlfriend, you did all these things. But I think looking back now, you made the right decision. As far as how your role has morphed and grown with Callaway, the work that you do media wise, the productions, incredible stuff. I mean, you guys are dominating in that space. Speak on what you do as far as your roles there, because I know you do stuff with the fitting room,
Yeah.
Callaway Talks, and other things, and how overall what you do, what you're doing as a company media wise, is just absolutely overshadowing anything else in the golf world.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that, and that's been a huge, huge focus for us. So, what we've tried to really expand is our content marketing, and we started doing it in about 2013, 2014, so 7 years ago, and nobody in golf was doing that at the time. Nobody in sports was really doing it at the time. And we started with a podcast, the Pirate Ship Show podcast, and we were doing daily videos that we're putting up on YouTube, and we started bringing a lot of that in house because previously, even when I was working at Titleist, all that stuff had to be outsourced, and it would take a long time. It would cost a lot of money. You had a lot of back and forth because you were working with people who didn't really know golf. And our former chief marketing officer, Harry Arnett, I give him a lot of credit for this. He's like, I want to bring a lot of this in house. And so we hired a guy who's still with us, Jeff Newbarth from the Golf Channel, who's executive producer at the Golf Channel, had a lot of experience with ESPN as well, to kind of come in and build that out. And so we have in-house editors, we have in-house people, producers, and people who film with in-house photography and retouching and stuff that we in the past would have had to send everything out. It would take weeks or months to get stuff done, and now we can do it in 1 or 2 days. It's absolutely incredible. So we have a number of different platforms. We have our main Callaway podcast, and that'll be we'll have tour players on there. We're talking about things that are going on at Callaway, behind the scenes at Callaway, that kind of thing. And then we have the fitting room, which I help to co-host, and this is really for those club geeks, who
Sure.
really want to know about fitting and which club is right for them, and tinkering with their clubs and building clubs and all of that. And we get some really avid listeners, amazing questions on the fitting room, and we put those out every other week. And then we have Callaway Talks, which I host, which I'm excited about, where we kind of do a deep dive into all of our new products as well. And we'll have our SVP of R&D, Alan Hocknell, Doc Hawk, out there, or Sean Toulon, who runs our putter division, and really dive deep into the products. And we do an amazing amount of product videos as well. I think we had something like 49 product videos just in January that we've been doing for Chrome Soft, for Epic, for Apex, and those are all done in-house. So it's been absolutely incredible. We've also done partnerships with Vice Sports, with HBO. We've been a sponsor of the match, which, we had Phil Mickelson versus Tiger Woods. And then we did the Champions for Charity with Steph Curry, who's one of our brand ambassadors, and Phil Mickelson. So we try to really be on the forefront of content marketing, as well as being an incredible performance golf brand.
Dave, you set me up for the perfect segue, because I was about to say you brought up Jeff Newbarth, a guy who has helped create this top of the line media outfit that you have at Callaway, and he has been so big behind the match that you were talking
Yeah.
about. And recently you had Steph Curry
Yeah.
in-house for an interview. And so were you there when this was taking place? What was that experience like, having him there at Callaway and him being able to discuss his role with Callaway, and certainly what he's doing with the match and with golf, and even giving back as well?
Yeah, it was incredible to have him on our campus. We had to be very careful having Steph. He wants to be called Stephen, so I'll make sure I call him Stephen, on our campus, because of the NBA bubble that they had, and they were just starting their training
Yes.
camp at the time. So obviously everybody's going to be masked up, but we're very careful with the number of people that he interacted with. We did have him on the podcast as well, and then he went down to the Performance Center and he got fit. Down there as well, and tried out all the new clubs. He's made a huge commitment to Howard University, to bringing back the golf program at Howard University, which is one of the HBCUs, the historically Black colleges and universities. And Callaway's made a massive commitment as well. We are outfitting and we are fitting the entire Howard golf university team, both the men's and women's team. We'll be supplying them with all of their equipment, which is a big investment on our part. But that's part of our deal with Steph Curry as a brand ambassador, and also the match, the Champions for Change, which Jeff Newbarth was executive producer of. Each of the players in there, whether it was Charles or Peyton, Phil, and Stefan, picked a university that they were going to be supporting through that match, and they raised an unbelievable amount of money. I think it was over $10 million for these different universities. So that's going to be huge, and we're going to bring life back into the golf programs at some of these schools, which is going to be incredible.
What's also incredible is how much knowledge you have over club technology. I mean, I'm listening to you talk and I'm like, this guy knows his stuff. So what stemmed your love of the golf club and the technology? And on top of that, all the different new things that you're doing with clubs at Callaway that are so cutting edge.
Yeah, I just love that part. I love working with the R&D guys that really help understand the technology that they're putting in these clubs, and then figuring out a way to explain that to consumers in a way that they can understand and be excited about. I mean, that's really we talked about the media part, but the core part of my job is as director of product and brand management, and I have drivers, fairways, irons, hybrids, and wedges. So a lot of products. Callaway has a lot of products. So really trying to understand those. One of my other nicknames besides D Nevs or Yodi Nevs is Specs, and that's what our CEO Chip likes to call me, because I'm down in the weeds. You know, I'm up at the strategy level, but I'm down in the weeds with all the lofts and the lies and the lengths and the offsets and all of that as well. And I love that part of it as well. These products really help golfers play better, and people get excited about them. I mean, we just launched the new Apex line and introduced that. And then we had our pre-sale last week, and it was a record pre-sale in Callaway golf history. These people are pre-ordering before the clubs are even available. They're so excited to get these into their hands. And like you said earlier, the demand in the golf industry, the number of rounds being played has just been off the charts. And we really want to make sure that sustains and that continues, even, you know, as we get past the COVID and pandemic. And I think it will, because people are seeing what a great game golf is and how much fun they can have and how accessible it is, and the time that they can spend with their families also.
We're talking with Dave Neville, Senior Director, Brand and Product Management of Callaway Golf. I'm Bryan Fenley, an anchor at Fox Sports Radio. Dave is on Twitter at DNevsCG. I'm on Twitter at Bryan Fenley. You spoke about being in the weeds. Hopefully you're not golfing from the shrubbery too much, but what's a golfer that comes to mind that resembles your temperament on the course?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I would like to say it's like Xander Schauffele, our local San Diego
Yeah.
guy who's cool, calm, and collected on the course. But lately, I've been trying to make sure that just kind of having the perspective about golf. So I'm a single-digit handicapper, but I didn't play golf in college. I didn't play golf in high school either. You know, I'm not a plus handicap golfer by any stretch, but being able to play the game. And for example, we played at Torrey Pines last month before the Farmers Insurance Open, and getting a chance to play the same course as the pros did. We didn't play the same tees, but they had the rough up in the greens in the similar type of condition. It just gives you an appreciation for how good these golfers are. And so one of the things I'm trying to do when I'm out there is, if you do hit a good shot, to really enjoy that, you know, and because you're not going to do that every time, and have a perspective. I think a lot of people, when they get on the greens, they expect they're going to make anything within 20 feet, you know, the pros do that. They don't, you know, the pros miss 50% of their putts from 10 feet and out. So, you know, if you make a 8 or 9 footer, you should be happy. That's a great putt, even for the pros. But I think that's what's so great about golf, is you can really put yourself in the shoes of the pros. You can play the same courses. You can use the same type of equipment. You know, you can hit the same putts, and that's what makes golf such a great game.
Speaking of the pros, recently Callaway brought on Jon Rahm, who obviously ranked up to number 2 in the world. The thrill of having him with you all, what has that done for your company and on his side as well, to just bolster both sides?
It's absolutely huge. You know, getting a top 5 player in the world is absolutely amazing. And as you guys know, with Jon Rahm, he's on the leaderboard all the time. You know, he was coming off an injury at Torrey at the Farmers Insurance. He was top 10. You know, he was in second place. He was up there all the time. He has a chance to win majors all the time. So getting a player of that caliber is amazing. I think what a lot of people don't know is that John played Callaway for a number of years growing up. Even at Arizona State, his coach was Tim Mickelson, who's Phil's caddy, Phil's brother, Phil's caddy. You know, they shared the same agent as well. He's a lot of familiarity with the Callaway equipment, playing it for a number of years. So the transition for him coming over to Callaway was actually pretty easy. He was really excited about the golf ball, the new Chrome Soft X. He loved that. He loves to spin around the greens. He's in the new driver already. He's in the wedges. He just put the putter, one of our new putters, in play as well. And he's dropping bombs at Torrey Pines. So he's been great to work with. He's also going to wear Travis Matthew, or is wearing Travis Matthew clothing, which is part of the Callaway umbrella, and endorsing Top Golf as well, which is also coming as part of the Callaway family. So we couldn't be more excited to have John on board.
As far as the wedges, I saw a video where I believe John Rahm was hitting over a Phil Mickelson, like
Yeah.
sized Phil Mickelson. That was
Cutout,
like like a cutout. Were you there when that was filmed? Because, you know, going back to just the creativity that comes with what you do media wise and the content, I thought that was a fascinating way to introduce John to what you're doing at Callaway.
Yeah, I want to tell the origin story of these
Okay.
cutouts of Phil Mickelson. Actually, we did them about a year or so ago when we launched the new PM Grind 19 wedge, which is the Phil Mickelson wedge. It's kind of his signature wedge. So we had a media event at our performance center, and we made a bunch of these cutouts of Phil. They were actually a little bit taller than Phil. They were about 6'5", and we had people hitting PM grinds and trying to flop in them.
Yeah.
Flop it like Phil was the contest, and they were hitting them into his leg and his stomach and other parts I can't talk about, making holes in the Phil cutout. And a lot of people don't know this, but Phil is the only player who actually has a badge that works at our performance center. And he randomly showed up that day. And this is an incredible story, but he went inside, he was grinding on some wedges and working on wedges. And he said, what are they doing out there on the range? And Garrett Pond, who's his fitter, said, yeah, they're hitting flop shots over cutouts of you out on the range. And of course, Phil being Phil, he had to go out. He comes out on the range. He's got his flip-flops on, and he's like, hey, guys, what are you doing? These media people had no idea. We didn't set it up. It was totally random that Phil was going to come out. I mean, their jaws dropped, and he's like, give me one of these wedges. And he's got his, PM grind wedge. He's like, this shot's not that hard. He does it about 2 feet away and just leans his weight forward, hits a flop right over him, drops his club and walks away. And he's like, it's not that hard. See you guys. And he walks away, and people, it just blew their mind. So when we had this ad shoot with Rahm, we had to get Rahm hitting some flops over Phil with the wedges, but it was actually too easy for him. And what we did is we had to give him a 4-iron, and we said, we're going to move you back about half a foot, but we're now going to have you hit 4-irons. First time Rahm flops it right over Phil with a 4-iron. I mean,
with a 4-iron.
With a 4-iron, absolutely incredible. He actually kind of got on his knees. He got far away. You can see the clip out there on CallawayGolf.com on our Twitter feed. It's amazing. It's an amazing video. And so we've been doing this thing called Phil Fridays, PhilPhriday, Phil Fridays, where we just have some fun with Phil, because he's just getting to a point where he's really enjoying the game. Obviously, he's been hitting bombs. He's got the calves going. He's out on social media. He's blowing it up. He's out on the senior tour and winning out there, but still competing on the PGA as well. So Phil's having a lot of fun at this point in his career.
What an ambassador he is for the sport, for Callaway Golf. Same could be said about you, Dave, in what you do with Callaway and golf. And this has been fascinating. I love your story, and I'm really excited for people to see this. I'm Bryan Fenley. Dave, I've had a blast, and I'd love to do this again sometime, man. This was a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on, Brian. I really appreciate it. This is great.